So welcome back to Managerial Accounting, and the purpose of this first of two mini lectures on the exam is to go over the multiple choice part of the exam. So just overall grading, and I apologize to Daniel. I think there was a mistake I do make mistakes, he pointed out to me. So when I graded your exam, there were 30 multiple choice questions. So 30 multiple choice questions. Each worth 2 points. So that would give you a maximum of 60 points there. So if you got everything correct, you would have gotten 60 points. So what I had to do was I had to take the number you had correct and divide by the total number of questions of 30, and that gave me the number of points that you got for the multiple choice. And then problem 31 was worth 10, problem 32 was worth 10, problem 33 was worth 10, problem 34 was worth 10. So you had to add those to each of your on the front page. All right, so let's do the multiple choice here. Primary goal of managerial accounting is to provide information to managers. That's why we call it managerial accounting. So the answer there is C. Which of the following would most likely be considered an indirect material for a manufacturer? Steel, fabric, and lumber are more direct materials. Glue, those costs which are important but difficult to trace to the individual product. Glue would be an example of that. So that would be an indirect material. Number 3, cost of goods manufactured is equal to cost of goods manufactured. You saw this on your exam and the take-home part in the first question. It's the total manufacturing cost plus beginning work in process minus ending work in process. That's your total cost of goods, not cost of goods sold, but cost of goods manufactured. Okay, so beginning work in process inventory plus the total manufacturing cost minus the ending work in process inventory. That'll give you the total cost of goods manufactured. The answer there is D. Which of the following is a period cost? So period costs are things that are not included as product costs. So accountants are important, but it doesn't become part of the cost of the product. Doesn't become part of the cost of the product. It is a period cost. Number 5, an example of a period cost would be advertising expense. B, C, and D are all actually manufacturing costs. Number 6, compute conversion costs. I can make this bigger. I thought I could make it bigger. You make it bigger, make it bigger. There we go. I made it bigger. Okay, conversion costs. Conversion costs would be the total of direct labor and factory overhead. So that's 193 direct labor and factory overhead of 187, which gives you 348, 200. Number 7, which of the following is an indirect cost for bar teller producer of bar stools? So wages for bar stool assemblers, wood and steel used in bar stools, leather used for seat cushions. Those are all direct costs. So factory supervisor's salary would be important, but it would not be a direct cost. So the answer there is B. Number 8, prime costs are material and labor. Number 9, journalizing the entry for indirect labor costs incurred for factory overhead would include a debit to, this was the second take-home exam question, debit to factory overhead. 10, which of the following is typically used by companies that make custom products? That would be job order costing. You make custom products, you trace all the material, labor, and overhead to the individual jobs. 11, journalizing the entries for jobs shipped and customers billed would include a credit to finished goods. So when you transfer the cost out, when the goods are sold, you debit cost of goods sold and you credit finished goods inventory. 12, a manufacturer of which of the following products would most likely use job order costing? You've got to ask yourself, of those ones listed there, what was the most customized? So the most customized there would be the graduation invitation, because it would be customized to one individual, the name of the person, the date, and so forth. So the one that would be job order costing would be C. 13, in job order costing, the journal entry for the flow of direct materials to production consists of a debit to work in process and a credit to materials. Again, that was the second take-home question on the exam. 14, the salary of an internal auditor would be classified as a period cost. D, document authorizing the issuance of materials from the storeroom, that's a materials requisition. 16, if the amount of factory overhead incurred exceeds the amount that applied, then you would say you have a debit balance and it would be under applied overhead. So you actually incurred more overhead than you applied to jobs. So if you end up with a debit balance and overhead, that means that you incurred more cost than you applied. 17, the following production data were taken from the records of the finishing department for June. The conversion equivalent units of production in the June 30 finishing department inventory, that first in, first out method. So you want the conversion costs in the ending inventory as of June. That inventory is 60% complete with regard to conversion costs. So it's 60% times 7,000, which would be 4,200. 18, Department W had 2,400 units, 1/3 complete at the beginning of the period. 16,000 units were transferred to Department X from Department W during the period, and 1,800 units were 1/2 completed at the end of the period. Assume completion ratios apply to direct materials and conversion costs. Okay, the equivalent units of production used to compute unit conversion costs. So conversion costs here. So equivalent units for conversion on the cost report. So you had 24 units in beginning inventory, but those 24 units were 1/3 complete beginning of the period. So they were 2/3 complete this period. And then you have to figure out the number of units started and completed. So this was the number of units that was completed, 16,000. Here were the number of units that were in inventory. So difference between those. And then the ending inventory was 1,800 units, and it was 1/2 complete. So you multiply that by 1/2, and you get 16,100. 19, the manufacture of 10,000 units of product, direct materials incurred were 165,000. Direct labor costs incurred were 205, and factory overhead was 53,000. Total conversion cost would be the total of the direct labor and the overhead. So that's 105 plus the 53 is 158. Number 20, in process costing, the amount of work of process is valued by allocating department costs between completed and partially completed units. The answer there is B. 21, department had 2,400 units, 1/3 complete at the beginning of the period. 16,000 units were transferred to Department X from Department W, and 18 units were 1/2 completed at the end of the period. Assume the ratios apply to direct materials and to conversion costs. The total number of units to be assigned cost on the production report. So the total units to be assigned costs. So we didn't ask for equivalent units here. We want the total units that will be assigned costs. So what would be assigned costs would be the beginning inventory plus the units that were started and completed this period, which would be 16,000 minus 2,400, which is the beginning inventory, plus the 1,800 ending inventory, right? So that what we want there is just the total number of units to be assigned costs. I'm not saying equivalent units, we're saying the total units. 22, which of the following would most likely use job order costing? So again, which one is most customized? And the one that's most customized would be Movie Studio. 23, process costing would be appropriate for a national gas refinery. All those other ones would use job order costing because they're all customized. 24, which of the following is uncharacteristic of process costing? Costs are accumulated by job. That's in the job order costing. That's not process costing. 25, Challenger Factory produces 2 similar products, regular widgets and deluxe widgets. Factory overhead budget is 675,000 with 30,000 direct labor hours. So your overhead rate is $2.25 per direct labor hour. If the budget forecasted production for the period was 50,000 widgets, and each widget requires 3 hours to make. 225 times 58 times 3, that gives you 391,500, which is A. 26. Well, Borssausen factory has budgeted factory overhead for 13 million and direct labor hours of 10 million. The actual direct labor hours for the month of May are 350,000. Overhead allocated for May is. So the overhead rate would be the total budgeted overhead divided by the total volume for the year. And for May, so it's 135, and for May we work 350,000 hours, so there's 472,500 of factory overhead. Which of the following are actual factory overhead allocation methods? Single rate, multiple production rate, activity-based costing. The answer is A. 28. Which of the following is a reason banks use activity-based costing? They use activity-based costs to determine the amounts to charge and the profitability of the services they provide. So the answer there is D. If selling and administrative expenses are allocated to different products or decision-making, they should report it in the financial statements as those are period selling and administrative costs, although they may be allocated, are not production costs. They are period costs. Okay. So I hope you found that little review useful, and I will do a separate one on the take-home part as well. Be well, everyone. See you shortly.